Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Draft Marathon Q&A with myself, Patrick Daugherty, and everyone's favorite, Denny Carter. You're going to ask him about zero RB strategy, kickers.
Yeah.
Put out an article on kickers today.
I did. Despite the protestations of you and everybody involved in NBC Sports, I said the people have to have their kicker analysis.
It seems like someone hasn't read numerous legal settlements, Denny, and what is allowed, what isn't allowed in our professional relationship. Of course, the personal relationship has been shattered beyond all repair.
No, that goes without saying, which is why we were picked to do a Q&A together today.
Exactly. And so, by the way, draft season is raging. There's no question too big or small. Ask us whatever you're thinking. We're going to have an opinion on it. Maybe we shouldn't. But we do, and we want to talk to you about it. Sleepers, early round strategy, late round strategy. But Denny, let's first, as we're waiting for some questions to roll in, off the top of your head, which player have you drafted the most in 2024? Who feels like the key to your team? If you're thinking about that, I'll just say mine is Devin Achane. And
yeah.
As you know, I tend to be like a more conservative ranker, a more conservative drafter. Not that I don't love, I do love big plays and upside. A lot of times in the first or second round, I won't take someone that, might miss half the season.
Right.
Not to cast aspersions on Devin Achane. It's one season with injuries, but just the part of the board he's going like over like these kind of like fake wide receiver ones or like these really, really low ceiling like RB ones. He's the only guy I still see at that 2-3 turn capable of like single-handedly winning leagues. And that's why I keep drafting Devin Achane. Who is someone that you keep drafting? And by the way, get those questions rolling. We are ready to answer.
Yeah. Get your questions in. It can really, no bad questions, no dumb questions. We will probably not mock you for any of these questions. Actually, I just wanted to say on Achane, on the Achane front. So I encourage folks to watch the Superflex mock draft that'll be out later today on the NFL and NBC YouTube page, in which I accidentally talk myself into drafting Devon Achane, and I capitulate to the forces of Achane, including my good friends Kyle Dvorak and Pat Daugherty. So check that out.
Denny, real quick, that Superflex, that draft hasn't happened yet. That's later today.
You're right, but when it happens, that's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen.
Right? Yeah, you're right.
The folks.
Anyway, my most drafted player is most likely Malik Neighbors, because I usually there was a time not too long ago when I could get him as my wide receiver 3. If you started off with 2 high-end receivers, you could get him as wide receiver 3, depending on where you were in the draft, and it was glorious. Now I find myself having to take him as wide receiver 2, but I still am fine with that. And we've talked ad nauseum on the Rotoworld show about, about how he has tons of volume coming his way this year. And he's the kind of guy who can do crazy things with tons of volume, even if it's coming from Daniel Jones. I know that's kind of gross, but I love Neighbors.
That is, this I pointed out, the fear. My one fear with Malik Neighbors, who I am drafting in a ton of leagues too, is that some people say there's no such thing as like low quality volume. And what I will posit is, what if there is? And the targets are just so bad that there's no possible way for anyone to profitably make hay with them. And just that Daniel Jones is, I don't know if you saw the video, Sauce Gardner was asked what it was like to practice against Daniel Jones in joint practices. And without exaggerating, he had to stifle laughter several times. And he was not even trying to be a jerk. Like, he wasn't trying to be a troll. He was just kind of like, he was trying to think of nice things to say.
Yeah.
And they were not coming. The nice things were not coming.
Yeah.
That's who Malik Neighbors' quarterback is.
Malik Neighbors appeared pretty beaten down after that scrimmage with the Jets, that practice with the Jets, because it appears that the Jets really, really dominated. And I think it is, we have to separate real football from fantasy. I think, a guy like Neighbors is going to be very frustrated this year and is probably, going to rightfully lash out at times with, frustration over Daniel Jones, over the offense in general. I think you're going to see the same thing from Justin Jefferson. It doesn't stop me from drafting them. So it might be bumpy from like a real perspective, from a statistical perspective, all I say is enjoy your fantasy points, folks who are drafting neighbors.
We would enjoy your questions. We have a lot of viewers. I don't see any questions yet, which maybe leads me to believe, Denny, that there are technical difficulties. Because I'm assuming of the hundreds of viewers we have, at least one of them has asked a question.
So if you switch over, is there a way to go to the YouTube part of the questions? Because I think we're only getting the Twitch right now.
I don't think it's the case, Denny. Like, please ask us questions. As I say, from our YouTube. Yeah, okay.
I'm positive people are asking.
Yeah, I am too, but we are not getting them, and we are having some technical difficulties. So that is a problem, and we'll just keep filibustering as we figure this out. Denny, I want you to start monologuing about zero RB right now and some of the best targets for that. Just get into your article some of the people you're targeting with your zero RB builds, if you do not mind.
Right. Well, it depends on how kind of radical you want to get with the strategy. If you've taken 4 or 5 receivers and elite tight end or 2, whatever the case may be, I do like Javonte Williams a lot. I would say that Javonte is my second most highly drafted player this year behind Neighbors. I also have kind of warmed up to Ramondre Stevenson. We talked about a couple weeks ago how all signs point to the new regime in New England really liking Ramondre Stevenson as the unquestioned lead back, a guy who will probably see a fair amount of checkdowns, of pass game involvement, which by the way, he was good 2 years ago. He was good in that department and good and good pass catcher in college as well. I don't know how to explain last year beyond just like total dysfunction among both the organization itself and the team and the offense, of course. But I think that he's being completely overlooked. I don't think that Antonio Gibson is a threat to his volume, and I think Stevenson is definitely lined up for goal line work, short yardage work. So those are 2 guys, Stevenson and Javonte. I think that those guys can make it work. You get a little deeper on the board, and you have your Dallas running backs, which good luck with that one. Choosing between Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle. I really don't. I mean, I know I've talked about Zeke a lot, but I can see the case for Dowdle now that my eyes are open. My third eye is open, Pat, and I see.
Denny's third eye is open. Our third eye is open to apparently the questions are rolling in on YouTube, and they are not showing up here though. Friend of the show, Emo Cowboy, is helping to relay some of these questions right now.
That's so nice. Thank you, man. Wow.
Thank you so much. She's a amazing Twitter follow, a good friend of the show. We have a first one, a keeper question, 18-team league. Holy Lord, Denny. Either 11th round CJ Stroud or 14th round Kyler Murray. His other keeper is Garrett Wilson in the 8th. He clearly wants to keep a quarterback. 18-team league very much increases the quarterback. Who are you telling JD, not Emo Cowboy?
I mean Stroud. I think it's Stroud because I mean between the 11th and the 14th, I know there is obviously, I'm doing the math right now. There seems to be a 3-round difference there. But what I would say is it's not enough for me to lean Kyler. Now, if it was Stroud in the 7th or Kyler in the 14th, I'd go with Kyler. I think you're going Stroud here.
Well, Stroud, too, has the big advantage of has been good in the NFL. Kyler Murray, of course, has never been good in the NFL. It's a real shame, Denny. By the way, we're commenting. You said you were rocking the robe. I don't know if you get this, if this is a Denny inside joke or not.
Yeah.
But
yeah, right. So I once wore a sweater that I like, and Matthew Berry, among others, called it a robe.
Oh, I remember the robe.
And we're asking me if I'm trying to be Hugh Hefner, which I am not. I will never try to be Hugh Hefner.
No, Denny will never ever try to be Hugh Hefner. Denny, will you ever draft Kyren Williams? How early is too early to grab him? People have reacted to like kind of the mixed summer news where a guy who finishes the RB2 is not usually going in the first round. He's still going in the second round. He's still going as one of the top 6 or 7 running backs. Mm-hmm. How early is too early for Kyren Williams?
Oh man, I do feel like it's a little dicey to draft him where he's going. I'm looking at ADP right now. He's going at RB7 in PPR formats. Like, you look at the guys going around him. You have Puka Nacua, you have Garrett Wilson. I'm just talking about all positions, even like, man, I'd much rather have Pacheco at RB10 than Kyren at RB7. And it's not because Kyron's not good or anything, but they clearly have a plan with Blake Corum. They clearly like Blake Corum a lot, and I just have a hard time believing Corum is just going to sit on the sideline until Kyron gets dinged up. I don't think that's happening.
The alarm bells like fully went off for me with Kyron. I have been trying to create Kyron panic since like April. I was on the vanguard of creating Kyron panic. But when he said this month, he said something like, it was almost a direct quote, like, obviously it's not in my best interest to take every touch. It's like, ooh, yikes. You got a running back admitting that he likes the coaching staff's plan to not give him every touch. And whereas his fantasy value is entirely tied up in getting every touch. That is what made Kyron Williams valuable last year.
Yeah, he had a really like insane workload, like a workload that we really don't see in the modern game much anymore, like running all the routes, basically only coming off the field when he needed a breather. I don't know if that's the role he's going to have. And I think he's kind of being drafted like he will have that role. Not entirely. I mean, if he could be drafted as RB3 if people were going off of last year completely. I think people are savvy enough to understand the Corum pick and everything. But Sean McVay, I think, is smart enough to know they cannot give him that sort of workload this year.
Emo Cowboy is feeding us so many questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Emo Cowboy. Real quick, though, a question from Twitch. A longtime viewer of the show, Chad. Is Jahan Dotson a buy as a flex with a clear path to all his slot targets? Hold on, Jahan Dotson was traded. Did this happen this morning, Denny? Did I miss some news?
Yes, it appears that he was just traded to the Eagles.
Never been more over for Johnny Wilson. Never been more alive for Diami Brown in Washington. And I don't know, Jahan Dotson would have been more as a buy in Washington as even they're unhappy with him wide receiver 2 as opposed to the wide receiver 3 and 4th option behind Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Do you agree with that take? And that this, even though he was trending the wrong direction in Washington, I would say a trade to the Eagles makes him less draftable, not more. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, he's completely irrelevant for fantasy now. I mean, if he wasn't already. So there's not much to say there. He's not going to be a thing.
Denny, you're on the clock in the first round. Are you taking Jonathan Taylor or Garrett Wilson?
Garrett Wilson. I mean, I'm a receiver guy, so whatever. But I think Garrett Wilson is kind of a tenuous pick because his production is going to hinge once again on Aaron Rodgers' health. And Pat, I will say I saw a clip. I just want to put this out here, okay? I saw a clip of Aaron Rodgers running at full bore in practice the other day.
Oh, come on, man! Stop.
It didn't look great. It looked.
What did you expect it to look like?
He's an old guy. He's my age, and I don't look great when I run. I'm not a world-class athlete, but he didn't look 100%. That's all I'm saying.
Denny, by the way, I'm going Garrett Wilson over Jonathan Taylor too. Just Garrett Wilson has risen above poor circumstances. Jonathan Taylor keeps creating poor circumstances for himself by getting injured.
Yeah, and also the Richardson situation with look at Derrick Henry under center for the Colts is probably going to score some short touchdowns and take those away from Taylor. So that's not good.
Denny, in our Shy Away 30 article, which is live on the site right now, I wrote up Jahmyr Gibbs. You wrote up Travis Etienne. But if we're worried about Jahmyr Gibbs' lingering hamstring, or if we're worried about it lingering and you want to trade him, do you think Travis Etienne is a fair return for Jahmyr Gibbs? Also, I mean, would you draft Travis Etienne ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs at this point? Even though it seems like he'll be ready for week 1, but dealing with a second hamstring strain of the offseason.
In the long term for this season, I would still want Gibbs over Etienne, especially because Dan Campbell doesn't seem overly concerned about the injury, and he's not been a coach who completely lies to the public about injuries. So I kind of do believe that Gibbs will be okay in the coming weeks. And Doug Peterson has spent the entire offseason saying we cannot give Travis Etienne the 320 plus touches he had last year. No, that was not the plan. Okay, they drafted Tank Bigsby last year because that was never the plan for Etienne to be that sort of workhorse. It just so happens that Tank Bigsby is the worst running back in the NFL. that doesn't seem to matter. They're trying to make him a thing again. And really, like, sometimes we just have to accept that's what matters. That team wants a running back to be involved, maybe even getting the short yardage or goal line touches. That's not good for ETN, who, by the way, only had 15 inside the 10 touches all season last year.
It's not good for ETN, but he's still at least the first option on those touches for the Jaguars. I struggle to think like Mr. Fumbler himself, Tank Bigsby, will like get in the mix. Even if he gets in the mix more, like is he really going to get those highest value touches? Whereas the problem with Jahmyr Gibbs is to still that the Lions have no incentive to get rid of their two-back approach because it worked so well last year. And just like, why would we think David Montgomery would not be option A at the goal line? So I'm really getting into fading Jahmyr Gibbs territory, but the concerns you laid out with Travis Etienne are real. And I would still, even with all the information we have today, including Jahmyr Gibbs not practicing, I would still much rather be rostering Jahmyr Gibbs than Travis Etienne. Where the floor, maybe he can't live up to a first, second round turn ceiling, but the floor is still safely top 3 rounds, I would say. So he's not going to be like a fiasco pick.
Yeah.
And the upside is still very real. Whereas Travis Etienne does have more fiasco potential, even though I don't think he can lose those goal line carries, though. So I don't even know how big the fiasco.
I mean, I don't think you draft a guy named Tank to not get the goal line carries.
Well, listen, that was the plan until he was the worst running back in the NFL.
I know. No, truly, he was like walking EPA, like negative EPA machine.
He was.
So I get that.
Denny, you have the 12th pick, the worst place to be. It honestly, there's never been a worse year, I feel like, to be at 12. Do you go running back, receiver, running back, or do you just do what I know you're going to do and go receiver?
Well, it very much depends. If you're in, like, say, a 10-team league where there's, half PPR or standard where you have 2 wide receiver spots, I'm probably not going like full out 0 RB. It really does depend on the format. So, I think 12 teams where you can start up to 4 receivers. I would start wide out. I don't really know who would you get here. You get like Marvin Harrison, and I know I'm not big on Harrison either.
I know your guy JJ.
Yes, my friend JJ Zacharyson is bullish on Harrison.
You're gonna go receiver. It's something like Drake London, Debo, Nico Collins, Marvin Harrison, maybe injured Puka. If the running backs available there, it's just like it's Jonathan Taylor, Jonathan Taylor does at least have momentous upside, or Saquon, who all of the sharps, including us, are fading. I don't know. I think you go receiver, and just take from that mid-range wide receiver 1 bucket, even though it doesn't feel too great.
I mean, you could probably get Garrett Wilson there.
No, not a lot of times you can't. Some of your home leagues you'll probably be able to. People have like Jets concern. He's going to like 9 or 10 a lot, 8, 9, 10 a lot. Garrett Wilson, the folks have sharpened up on Garrett Wilson.
Right. And
he will be there occasionally. I think his overall ADP is like 10th overall.
Yeah. Sometimes he will fall. Very occasionally, you'll see AJ Brown slip to the end of the first round. I definitely would pounce on that. But yeah, I think that you actually are right in saying that this is a pretty tough year to be at the end of the first round.
It is. It's always bad. There's just not upside there. There is not upside. That's why I just keep taking Devin Achane in the second round, because there's a lot of floor. There's a lot of really good players. But there is just, I guess there's upside if you want Marvin Harrison, sight unseen in the NFL. That is a lot of upside right there. Upside in Drake London, I guess, first time ever in a real passing offense. But it's just like a lot of known commodities around that 1-2 turn. And it's just not a great place to be. You've lost your league. You shouldn't even play your league.
Yeah. No, you can survive it if you follow us throughout the season.
Denny, quickly, do you have any concern that Jamar Chase will miss time this year?
I mean, my concern level is not 0. He doesn't seem to be on his way back, right? I mean,
he was back on the sidelines, but it's August 22nd, and he hasn't practiced one time. Like, he's an elite player. We know he's working out. But when was the last time this kind of situation had a happy ending? Even when they report for week 1, it's anecdotal. It's just stunning how often these situations go sideways, though.
We do wish that Jamar Chase's agent would have talked to us about this before we put him on the cover of the Rotoworld magazine.
I know, or he could have just told us when we talked to him at the.
We did. We talked. He could have said, "Look, I'm not going to play at all in August." So
he was more concerned about T. Higgins' contract than his own contract, which classic. Why does no, pay T. Yeah, no, pay T. By all means, pay T. I don't care about getting paid. No one's asked me if I want to be paid, so yeah, no, pay T.
Man, that's so like AJ Brown being like, I'm not even a wide receiver 4 in this offense.
No, I'm not. Now we got Dotson. I'm behind Dotson. I'm behind Johnny Wilson.
I suck apparently.
So, Denny, something we've been asked about all summer: the Bills' wide receiver room, where there's no clear number one. There's a lot of potential like number 4s. There's lots of potential upside when Josh Allen is the quarterback. But Curtis Samuel is turf toe now. Keon Coleman, kind of a mixed summer. Like one day there'll be a good gif. Next day there'll be a bad gif. Like, oh, wow, that's a really bad route from Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir has been our man of iron, our man of steel. He's just always been there. But is he even good? What are we doing with the Bills receiver report, Denny?
Yeah. Look, the nerdy metrics on Shakir are pretty good. Target per route run, not as good. But the other stuff, he seems to be efficient when he gets the ball. The problem is can he command the football? And with Stefan Diggs in the offense, the answer was absolutely not. Now Diggs is gone. I know that that opens things up for everybody, including Dalton Kincaid. I'm not counting him out of this discussion. I think Shakir's runway to immediate relevance in 12-team leagues is wide open because Curtis Samuel is down right now. He is struggling with turf toe. We know how that lingers. It's like nothing to mess around with.
Season starts 2 weeks from today, too.
Yeah. I mean, he could be okay, but I could see Shakir starting out hot. So I think Shakir is a must target guy for drafters who spend a lot of draft capital at running back and kind of piece together receiver. I think you got to get him.
A must target. That's a little stronger than I was.
I mean, for certain draft builds,
for certain, of course. By the way, Denny, people are asking me if I like Titans offensive line coach Bill Callahan's band Smog more than his solo output. Bill Callahan, an indie singer-songwriter legend, one of my all-time favorite artists. And the answer is no. I've never gotten as into Smog. I like more relaxed dad, Bill Callahan. That'll of course stun Denny. But I like a relaxed dad vibe in my music. Curtis Samuel, here's along those same lines. Are either of those guys undervalued, or is everyone just properly valued in Buffalo? I think Dalton Kincaid is overvalued. He does appear in our Shy Away 30 article. I didn't do the write-up, but we're all having trouble shaking the idea that Dawson Knox is still seeing not only snaps, but maybe targets.
And look, Kincaid drafters could get away with it if Dawson Knox once again gets hurt, because Dawson Knox gets hurt a lot. So if that happens, then Kincaid's going to look like a good pick. He's going 50th overall, tight end 5 behind Trey McBride. I would rather have McBride, although I don't really end up with him too much. I just see the players going around him. It's like, you can get Mark Andrews at basically the same price. DJ Moore is going there. Devontae Smith, Malik Neighbors is going there. I'm not targeting Kincaid in that area. Look, I mean, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem if Dawson Knox is taking some routes, and especially if he's working in the red zone because he's a superior blocker or whatever. I think that Kincaid is being drafted at his absolute ceiling.
He's being drafted at his absolute ceiling. Curtis Samuel is a lot more valued, totally different by essentially every drafter there is. Everyone has a different opinion on Curtis Samuel. I still like Curtis Samuel a lot as a wide receiver 4 flyer. And I don't know if you can really overrate the Joe Brady factor. Like Joe Brady made this guy like a going fantasy concern. He was legit wide receiver 3 his year with Joe Brady in Carolina. He's a lot older now. He's got a checkered injury history. But is like a wide receiver, he's barely even been going as a wide receiver 4 too. So he's been going as a wide receiver 4, but only just. And I think that there's still value to be had. Curtis, some injuries, you're like, oh, I'm taking this guy off my board. I'm not messing with this. Curtis Samuel, I view the turf toe almost as a buying opportunity because I thought he was already probably slightly undervalued. Now, of course, he's not going to be going up with the turf toe injury. And I really like Curtis Samuel's one of the classic rugs that brings the room together on a fantasy team. If anyone has seen movies in the
90s. No one has, unfortunately.
So Denny, Ben Sinnott, is he on the Sam Laporta track? I would say no, as an H-back. But again, apparently Jahan Dotson has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Commanders are just like, listen, we like Terry McLaurin. The rest of you guys, I have no idea who we're going to pass to. We don't like any of you. Diami Brown is on year 19 as our number 4 receiver, is somehow having a good summer. And Ben Sinnott, second-round pick, has been doing some yards after the catch damage this summer. The ADP has never, ever gotten even close to tight end 1 territory. He's not on the Sam Laporta track, I'll say that. But as Ben Sinnott, who's barely a tight end 2, is he going to be a streamer viable? Could he sneak into the top 12? What is your opinion on Ben Sinnott, a guy who deserves more scrutiny now with Jahan Dotson traded?
I agree. I am not completely overlooking Ben Sinnott now because I liked his usage in the preseason. I don't think he'll play this week, but in the first 2 preseason games for Washington, he saw 4 targets, caught all 4 for 67 yards. He lined up in the slot on 45% of his routes. That's good. He lined up out wide a few times, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I think that he showed, like, the way that he's being used in the preseason. If that carries over, he could be interesting. My issue is that, a secondary or a tertiary option for a mobile quarterback like Jaden Daniels is going to have a tough time getting there without a touchdown, and so I kind of think he profiles as the typical, very frustrating, touchdown-dependent fantasy option. In deeper leagues, you could do way worse, I think.
Ben Sinnott, again, he's barely been going as a tight end 2. I do think there are plenty of outcomes where he's the tight end 17, 18 and like a priority streamer. And maybe Jaden Daniels throws more than we're expecting to. It is Cliff Kingsbury, after all. And just the target competition is so lackluster for the Commanders. Just so lackluster for the Commanders.
There's no way to find out, but is Zach Ertz playing?
No, he's still there. No, stop. Don't mention it. Don't bring it up.
Okay, I'm just feeling like we're not talking enough about Zach Ertz.
There's a reason we don't talk enough about Zach Ertz, or at all about Zach Ertz, Denny. It's because he's Zach Ertz.
Okay, well, there you go.
Denny, is Drake London a fade at his current ADP on the aforementioned round 1-2 turn? Because of rumors, I believe that only you are starting that Kirk Cousins might not be ready for day 1. Are you concerned about Drake London?
I'm not. No. I'm not concerned about Drake London. I'm not trying to be, hot takey here. I don't think it really, in this kind of offense, I don't think it matters if it's Penix or Cousins. As far as London and Pitts go, like they're just, it's still going to be a lot of volume. It's still going to be high quality passing. I like Penix. I think that he not only is going to be a good NFL quarterback, but is in a fantasy friendly offensive system, from a McVay sort of system. And so I don't care. And the whole thing about resting Penix, I've backed off of that because obviously that's not happening, but it would be cool if we had some reporting on it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The only thing I'll say that creates any concern for me with the Falcons offense is I'm not worried about Kirk Cousins being ready for week 1. But I was about to say there's been like no hype or steam out of Falcons camp at all. And part of that is just because they are the most undercovered team in the history of the world. As you hear a lawnmower outside my house.
I can barely hear it.
There's just been nothing. I'm not getting any steam on any Falcons. Like no reports at all. So they're not covered locally. The national media is like just not going to Atlanta. So I do wonder, like, I feel like maybe Kirk's not looking bad, but I haven't seen anything like Kirk looks like, nothing ever happened. Like he never popped that Achilles. We're not getting like anything at all on this Falcons offense, which I have found somewhat curious.
They are putting out a lot of footage of Cousins running.
Okay.
So, I just take that for what it's worth. He seems okay, I guess.
Denny, this is Bijan. Are you comfortable with Bijan this year? Always just maybe, hopefully not forever destined to be one of the hottest button players in fantasy, but he was last year. He is this year. It seems like the deck has been cleared for the Bijan breakout. But are you comfortable drafting Bijan in the first round this year?
Yes, kind of. We did get a report the other day that like Tyler Algier is not exactly going anywhere. But there were a lot of off-season comments from Zach Robinson, the new offensive coordinator in Atlanta, and other coaches, the running backs coach, I forget his name, and they said like Bijan is the centerpiece. Like he's going to see the work, like the important snaps. And I take that to mean pass catching, and I take that to mean near the end zone. So I think maybe it's overthinking it a little bit to fade him. On the same token, I do think Algier could be a little bit frustrating because he profiles as like a tank of a back who could take short yardage and possibly plunge into the end zone after Bijan takes them all the way downfield. And I could see that happening. But I don't think it'll be like a disaster if you're taking Bijan in the first round. I guess middle of the first round or wherever he's going.
I think you laid it out perfectly. It's not going to be Arthur Smith season where it's like a 60-40 situation, sometimes even 50-50. But even 70-30 will be frustrating, especially if a lot of the 30% of Algier's touches are coming in the green zone. Because like you said, or like on critical third downs, because he's a load of a back. I mean, Bijan, I'm sure, can convert third and shorts, it's not an Arthur Smith level concern. But no. Like you can't unsee when a guy's productive, apparently, and like coaches just like cannot unsee Tyler Algier averaging 4.4 yards per carry. They think it's the most amazing thing that's ever happened.
I know. I know. I will say that from a zero RB standpoint, Algier is as good as it gets because he would have full command of that backfield. Should Robinson miss time.
Denny, who is going to lead the Cowboys backfield in fantasy points at the end of the year? Someone with a vaguely inappropriately worded questions. I'm not going to put it here, but they want to know who's going to lead the Cowboys in running back fantasy points at the end of the year. Do you still think it's Zeke, basically, in this Cowboys backfield? Are you open to the possibilities now of Royce Freeman, Rico Dowdle, or trade acquisition?
Man, the trade's got to happen soon, man. You've been calling for this trade since May.
It's not happening.
It's just, gosh, I don't want to get too far into this, but maybe I will. I'll go with Zeke just to answer the question. I'll go with Zeke just because familiarity with the offense.
Right, next question.
Jerry Jones loves Zeke, whatever. Okay. But here's the thing. So I talked about this with Sigmund Bloom yesterday in his On the Couch podcast. We talked about some offenses that we think are underrated, and therefore the players in those offenses are being underdrafted in redraft fantasy leagues, right? And then I turned the question around and I said, well, what are some offenses that are being overrated? And the first one that comes to mind is Dallas. What if just the dysfunction, what if the devastation of being humiliated by the Packers lingers into this season? What if, Mike McCarthy, who's basically a lame duck coach unless they win the Super Bowl, what if that has an impact? CeeDee Lamb hasn't been with the team all summer. Dak Prescott wants a new deal. Like this is a team in a very bad spot, negative spot going into the season. What if this offense is way, way worse than we're projecting? It makes me nervous about taking any of these guys.
Yeah, I'm very, very worried about the Cowboys being a fall-off offense. And Guyton has ended up looking like a good first-round pick and could stabilize the offensive line, but it's a very unimpressive skill core. Again, whereas you mentioned, the best player is not practicing. And
right.
Jake Ferguson is a good player. Jake Ferguson is not a number 2 weapon in an NFL offense. And I wonder if the Cowboys punched above their weight. To Mike McCarthy, never known for being Mr. Adjustment in Green Bay either. The league isn't going to be – not that they were caught flat-footed or by surprise last year, but I think the Cowboys were more pass-heavy than a lot of people expecting. You were actually calling that all offseason. But just like a different Cowboys offense than we were expecting. And I don't know, man. I don't know if they can pull this trick off twice with this.
Right. The pass volume could sort of paper over the deficiencies in this offense and make everything okay for a guy like Ferguson. I know you can't stand this, but maybe even a guy like Brandon Cooks. I know. Please don't cut my mic.
Yeah, no, it's cut. He's in full on decline. This is a question that I'm going to field this one about punting tight end basically in the first 8 or 9 rounds. Is it a good year to do that? I don't think it's a good year to do that. I'll just be honest, because I think that I've been sorry if you've already heard me give the spiel. Last year, after the top 4 or 5 tight ends, there were so many question marks, I thought, in like that 6 to 12 range. And there's a lot of really interesting flyers in the 12 to 20 range. This year, I just think it's the opposite, where it's really settled in like that top 10 or 11. And then in like the 12 to 20 range, there's just a lack of compelling flyers. Like, it's seriously like Tyler Conklin or bust, because you have to be really confident Luke Musgrave can earn targets in that super crowded Packers offense, or that Cole Kmet actually won't be bothered by Gerald Everett, or that TJ Hawkinson will return earlier than expected, or Pat Freiermuth will be better than he was last year. And, negative reports. Noah Fant is going to have to actually command targets in that remade Seahawks offense. Hunter Henry is the tight end 18. It's not a good year in the flyer range at tight end. And this is a year where, like, when it gets down to like that David and Njoku range, Dallas Goedert, even Brock Bowers, kind of like the last quote unquote legitimate tight end ones, I do start to get like an itchy trigger finger. Like, man, I got to get one of these guys. Because like, if I don't, like, it's Conk Daddy or bust. And don't get me wrong, I love the Conk Daddy, but probably shouldn't be plan A at tight end. Do you have a counter take?
No, I just would caution against trying to save yourself with a like sort of late round tight end. What I'm saying is just punt the position if you miss out on the guys you're targeting. If you get to a point where you're like, oh man, like Chig Okonkwo was right there. No,
Chig is never right there.
Just don't do this. Just stop yourself. Take a tight end with like the 3rd to last pick of your draft, get a defense and a kicker, and you're off.
Chig is never right there, Denny. Ever.
No, and by the way, like the Titans coaches have been very clear, Chig is not happening.
No, Chig is. It's never been more Chig over. It's Chig over for Okonkwo. It's never ever been more over for Chig. It's never ever been more over as I try to find questions amidst our technical difficulties here. This is a guy where I feel like it's a widely held perception that he's overvalued. There has not been a ton of summer chatter on James Cook. I think in part because there's been so much focus on the Bills receiver core. There has been some increased focus lately on Ray Davis. Seems like he's having a fine camp. I don't know if he's like blowing up Bills camp, but the rookie Ray Davis may be doing the things he needs to do to earn the dreaded Latavius Murray role. It's not like James Cook's ADP is like insane, but he's being drafted as a really solid RB2. I think in that RB like 15, 14 range. Is that proper value for James Cook? Or is he going to be just the perpetual, like, Lucy with the football RB2, where, like, it makes no sense that James Cook doesn't get a slightly better role and more fantasy points, but, like, are they just never going to give him the right role? Thoughts on overvalued James Cook?
Well, he's not going to score many more touchdowns this year. He had 4 touchdowns last year. Josh Allen, to no one's surprise, served as the primary rushing weapon inside the 10-yard line for Buffalo. Easily led the team. I think that's just going to happen this year. It's part of why we're taking Josh Allen first overall among quarterbacks. So, and in Superflex, you're probably taking him first overall, period. So the argument is not about touchdown upside. I don't think that's there for James Cook. What I would say is that he's really good. He's just good. I don't, like every metric points to him creating yards after contact, before contact. Like the Bills' offensive line is pretty solid. He's going to be running routes. Like Ray Davis, whatever he is as a pro, is not going to be a guy who's running a lot of routes and catching a lot of passes. So I think Cook is being very fairly drafted here. I'm looking at his ADP. Actually, he's going 30th overall, RB13. He's going like right next to Rashad White. I'm taking James Cook 100 times out of 100 over Rashad White. I know that's very dramatic of me, but and then you have Devon Achane
3 or 4 times where, let's say you've had a few White Claws, you take.
If I've had 2.5 White Claws, I'm probably taking Michael Pittman there.
Yeah, of course.
But, yeah, so Cook is fine. Yeah, he's a solid pick. I don't know what kind of roster build he fits into. I guess any really.
He fits into early receiver because when I've been pounding receiver early, like at least the first 2 rounds, frequently been getting James Cook either in the late third or sometimes the fourth. And Cook is the classic running back. You just have to stop worrying about what might have been. Like, it's because it's not going to happen. He is what he is. Like, he's going to always lead the team in snaps. He's going to be frustratingly yanked off the field for a lot of the most important plays. But when he is on the field, he's so efficient. He catches passes. There's big plays to be had in this Bills offense because of Josh Allen. The ADP has stabilized as an RB2. We're no longer trying to convince ourselves he's an RB1. And just don't focus on what might have been with James Cook and just embrace what is. And he's not even really a league winner. For him, he could be a league winning type pick if Ray Davis does not materialize. But the Bills under Sean McDermott have been so intent on whatever it is, the Devin Singletary role, the Latavius Murray role, the Ray Davis role. They're always hell bent on this role.
Yeah.
James Cook is winning leagues if that role goes away, but I just don't think that role is going away. So just treat him as what he is, an high-end RB2 who should have more upside, but doesn't have it because they're a weird team. Yeah, I know Chad is pointing out, they've been talking about fumbling. I mean,
well,
a lot of guys fumble in camp.
So I did that.
Chad, by the way, I'm not trying to be dismissive, Chad, a great longtime viewer, but guys fumble the ball in camp.
I did that blurb, and I tried to put enough information in it to suggest that it wasn't a long-term issue unless it keeps happening. But Joe Buscaglia, Buscaglia, sorry, Joe, if you're listening. He didn't seem too concerned, but it is something to monitor.
Something to monitor is the blower outside my window.
Oh,
yeah, Caleb Williams, you and I, we're kind of all in. Are we all in enough though to take him above that Jordan Love, Dak Prescott tier? You were ahead of the curve on Jordan Love. Dak is the ultimate, listen, it doesn't matter what kind of attempts there are. Attempts are what you need in fantasy. Do we like Caleb enough to take him over last year's breakout star Jordan Love, or kind of the perennially undervalued high-end QB1 Dak Prescott?
All right. I get the question, but I also think the question is a little bit off.
You reject the premise?
I reject the premise. Thank you. Because look, Caleb Williams is going at pick 100 right now. Jordan Love is going at pick 72, and Dak Prescott's going at pick 74. So you're talking about a 2.5 round difference there. So you're not going to be faced with a situation where you have to take, most likely, where you have to take Caleb over Love and Dak. They'll probably be gone. Would I rather have Caleb at his ADP compared to Dak and Love? I think so. I mean, I'm not going to say absolutely 100%, but yes, I'm leaning that way. I think Caleb has shown enough in the preseason to suggest that this team could be pretty pass heavy, and he could make a whole bunch of big plays with a great receiver trio if Keenan Allen drops a few LBs. Apparently
that narrative's being blown up, by the way. Now he looks normal weight again.
Well, I mean, but it depends on who you ask.
It does. It has been very much in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, because some people would say he's 30 pounds heavier this year. Some people would be like, he's literally 1 pound heavier than he was with the Chargers. I don't know. I mean, unless I see Keenan Allen get on a scale at my house, I'm not believing any of it.
He's 30 pounds stronger, Denny. Not
stronger. Yeah, me too, by the way. I think so. I do think Caleb's probably a better value, but he's going way later.
It's going way later. And yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for Caleb. I'm letting other people take Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. If I'm on the clock and guess what, bud? You got to take a QB. I'm not letting you out of this room to take a QB. All right, whatever. I'll take Jordan Love. It's fine. I don't know why it's so dramatic. Still take Jordan Love. It's fine. Yeah.
Can I go?
Yeah. Can I please go now? So that is kind of how I'm looking at it. That I like, Caleb's value. Even though Jordan Love is turning into a huge value, I will say.
I think so. So
free falling.
The Green Bay receivers are going to be frustrating. That we know that. The way to play it is just to simply draft Jordan Love. But also, I do think Green Bay's offense pops up in my mind with the question, which offenses are being overvalued? Because Love,
high touchdown rate.
For as good as he was last year, he was running super hot in some categories, including touchdowns, including downfield shots and receptions that are just not sustainable.
Sustainable. But remember, Denny, we did theorize last year that maybe it's just because he plays the quarterback position differently than we're used to seeing right now, and he does push the ball down the field. That's kind of like the central question at the heart of Jordan Love this season. But I tend to agree with you that even if Jordan Love plays the position differently, those rate stats almost always normalize. And he was just thermonuclear hot last year in a lot of categories.
He was, and it worked out. He was very fun for fantasy. I'm not saying that you're like avoiding him, but I feel like heavy investment in this Packers offense could maybe go sideways.
Denny, answer this one quickly. We got some to get to here. Oh, not this one. I don't know who Barry's ride or die will be, although actually I do have some suspicions. Who has a better season? Caleb Williams, Jared Goff. Basically, are we taking Caleb Williams 10 times out of 10 over Jared Goff?
I am, yeah.
All right. AD Mitchell, is he being undervalued with the wide receiver room gutted by injuries? Chad says it feels like he's heard nothing about him. There actually has been a lot of chatter about AD Mitchell lately. He's becoming kind of like a steam all-star out of Colts camp, having a really, really solid camp, especially like amongst those late first round, like second round wideouts. I think AD Mitchell's been having some of those positive reports we've seen actually. I have been taking him very frequently as a late round flyer because the ADP has not materialized. But how do you feel about Adonai Mitchell as we wait for Josh Downs to return from his ankle injury?
Obviously better in best ball. He's going to drive you insane in redraft because I'm positive AD Mitchell's going to have games where he scores like 35 fantasy points this year, but he's also going to have games where he scores exactly 0. So I don't really know what to tell you about that beyond like I like him in leagues that require you to fill multiple flex spots, I guess. But I don't think that you can take him with any sort of reliance on him as a wide receiver 3 or 4.
Denny, something I've been talking a lot about, I've probably been thinking way too much about. Cooper Kupp. Is he still a wide receiver 1? He's not being drafted as a wide receiver 1, but he's really climbed the receiver rankings where he's getting into like high end wide receiver 2 territory again, like 14 or 15. Coincided with Puka Nacua having a knee injury. Do you share my skepticism on Cooper Kupp? By the way, he's had 2,000-yard seasons in 7 years in the NFL. Do you share my skepticism on Cooper Kupp? Or are the stars aligning for Cooper Kupp to finally be back after 2 injury-marred years following his historic 2021?
When you put it that way, 2,000-yard seasons in 7 years, that stinks. When you remember it, it's bad.
Yeah, everything looks bad if you remember it.
That's right. I'd rather not remember that. He's climbed, kind of significantly. According to Fantasy Pros, he's going as wide receiver 17 right now in PPR. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm going to switch over because I had it at standard and no one plays standard anymore.
He's been 13 or 14 on underdog. A little bit lower.
Yes, that's the difference. Okay, I did that. Thank you. That's the point I was trying to get to. In super savvy drafts where everybody's been grinding for months and months, Kupp is going to go as like the wide receiver 12 or 13, right? But I think that in leagues where he has completely traumatized people with his injuries over the past couple of years, he could slip honestly to like the wide receiver 20 range. And at that range, I'm all in. There's nobody else I'm looking at on the board because he could easily be the 1A in this offense.
It's just here when you have the luxury of just being like I'm not a best ball bro, even though I probably do like a dozen best ball drafts. So it's just frankly just to try to stay sharp, to try to stay up on ADP trends. But when you're not a best ball bro, you can say things like, listen, man, I'm just not drafting either of the Rams receivers. And a lot of people don't have that luxury, but the question marks are just so – I'd rather have Puka than Cooper Kupp still. I'd rather go like where the trends are going than where they've been. But he's hurt. He was hurt a lot in college. I'm getting not great feelings.
I liked it better when I could get Puka Nacua in the 14th round. Can we do that again?
Yeah, can we do that again? By the way, Bo Nix, Pat, Bo Nix, QB1 Pat, where is your God now? Listen, I knew he was going to win the competition.
Oh, did you?
I did. I was never, ever on the Stidham train. Here's what I'll say about Bo Nix. I frankly would be excited if it were not excited as strong. I'd be excited about streaming him. If it were not the worst supporting cast I've ever seen, like what is this receiver room? Like Tim Patrick you want to talk about injuries? Cooper Kupp's at least played the past 2 years. Tim Patrick has not played as he suffered far more serious injuries than Cooper Kupp. Troy Franklin, like just totally never even showed up at Broncos camp. Like it's a real Marvin Mims hasn't shown up. Like it's a bad skill core.
Yeah.
And we know that Bo Nix can do the check down thing, but there's just nothing to supplement it with. And
maybe a little rushing. I think he has a little rushing juice. Also, I just want to mention that in the preseason game this past week against Green Bay, I saw something very important with Nix, which is that he came up to the line and he changed the play.
Well, that was probably a fluke. He probably got benched for doing that.
Oh, no. That's important. Listen, this guy, he's been in playing college football since 1999. He knows what he's doing. He's coming in as a veteran, and he's going to be able to manipulate defenses, manipulate this offense in a way that rookies are not trusted to do, and I think that matters.
My favorite stat of the offseason remains that Bo Nix played more college snaps than Joe Burrow has played NFL snaps. If you want to know how experienced Bo Nix is, that's true. Denny, are you still on the Chase Brown train? Is Chase Brown a gym?
He could be.
Bengals running back room. I feel like talk about something we're not getting clarity.
No. I mean, we talked with Ben Baby from ESPN. He did his best, man, to just try to break it down for us, and he did a great job. But I will say, I came away from it being like, well, it could still be Zach Moss. Like I'm not completely counting him out. He's the boring guy. Moss is boring, and I understand that. But you kind of have to adjust your expectations and say, okay, it could be him. But they're going at such similar ADP though that I really don't have a compelling reason to take Moss over Brown.
That makes a lot of sense. Denny, we've talked a lot about Chase Brown. Everyone has talked a lot about Javonte Williams. The great Broncos running back competition of 2024 just kind of seems like it never materialized. And it seems like we're just ending up where we started with the Javonte Williams is the closest thing there is to a bell cow lead back, maybe 50 to 60% of the snaps. Samaje Perine's still catching passes. Jaleel McLaughlin is still changing the pace. Do you like Javonte Williams near the back of the running back dead zone? Or are you only taking him if he really falls? I've been ending up with Javonte Williams in the running back dead zone, I will say. Even I have come around on Javonte, where all Javonte's like, it's over. He's getting traded to the Cowboys. It's not happening. It's not over.
I am all in on Javonte. So it's not, I'm drafting him at ADP. I'm actually sometimes taking him a little bit before. I'd like to share two stats with the class real quick. One is that Sean Payton offenses have ranked either number 1 or number 2 in running back PPR scoring on 12 occasions in 17 years as Sean Payton with Sean Payton at the helm. 12. Okay. And not with world beating guys.
No.
Okay. So let's remember that. The second thing is that Sean Payton offenses have been either number 1 or number 2 in expected running back points in 12 of 17 years. So we have a guy who just wants to feed the running back. What is that smart? I don't know. I don't
Probably
care.
not.
I don't care. I mean, it literally like just do it and keep that up. I think Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin can together actually be fantasy viable.
Denny, seriously, keep this one short. But you posted the article on kickers. Who's the hot kicker sleeper for 2024?
Greg Zuerlein. What did you want me to say?
Greg Zuerlein? He's been in the league like a dozen years. I mean, I know he's on the Jets, right?
What would have made you cheer?
He's a young guy.
Oh, okay. I got a young guy. Hold on. I got a young guy for the Rams whose name escapes me right now. His name is Joshua Carty. Go with him.
All right, Joshua Carty. Denny, are you on the Calvin Ridley train this year? Not many people are. We're not talking about him. All we did last summer was talk about Calvin Ridley. I think people just would rather not confront the question this August. Is Calvin Ridley going to have a good year?
I think he actually could because honestly, I think that he got kind of a raw deal last year in Jacksonville, just completely misused. And we've talked about this on the Rotoworld Football Show a lot in the offseason. I think that Callahan and the Titans are smarter than that, and they will deploy him in a more reasonable way. Just going to put this out here. He's run 5 routes in the preseason this year, and all 5 of them are on the boundary. So that is not great.
I mean, I don't know.
They
might have been like, he might have told Coach, I need some work on the boundary in the preseason.
Yeah. Right.
I have a little trouble with the preseason splits, which it's tough because a lot of them are telling. So it's so hard to know which ones are telling and which ones are not, though, because it seriously might have been Calvin Ridley. I want to practice this route on the boundary today. I'm like, all right.
Sure, definitely. I would be very bullish if we see Ridley running like 40 or 50% of his routes from the slot in week 1.
Yes.
And I think that his ADP is very fair. You look at he's going around like, okay, he's going Christian Kirk area, I'd take Ridley. Keenan Allen, I go Ridley. Terry McLaurin, I go Ridley.
McLaurin, I've been talking myself into this time that counts on Terry McLaurin.
I don't know.
I'm getting a little bit of like a DJ Moore, Justin Fields plays with real quarterback one time ever factor, even though apparently Justin Fields isn't a
I don't know what to make of that.
Denny, which Chiefs wide receiver? Hollywood, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, who doesn't seem like he's getting suspended, but again, the one truism of NFL discipline is that they make it up as they go along.
Yes. Absolutely true. Well, I just talked about that Ridley area as far as ADP. Rashee Rice is going right there at wide receiver 34. I guess you just take him over a guy like Ridley, and then Worthy is going as wide receiver 38, which that's significant. He was going as wide receiver 45, 47 in that area as of like 2 weeks ago. So the steam is happening for Worthy. It depends. I know this sounds funny. It depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for a steady drip of PPR points? If so, Rashee Rice is your guy. Are you looking for week winning upside? Then Worthy is your guy. Also, Worthy will provide some frustrating outings, I think.
Are we discounting the possibility? So listen, Rashee Rice was like the dump off guy, the short area targets guy last year. What if they enhance his usage even slightly and he becomes like a top 12 receiver in fantasy? Is that a possible outcome for Rashee Rice, or is the answer a hard no?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if he were to see just a few more, not even downfield, but like beyond the sticks, sort of targets, that would make a difference. Yeah.
The folks have been wanting to know DK Metcalf or Jalen Waddle. We know that you're high on the Seahawks offense. I've come around on the Seahawks offense. Jalen Waddle, as you pointed out to me, had a flukily low touchdown rate last year. Guys going as wide receiver 2s, kind of in like the 2-3 round 2-3 range. So some people's wide receiver 1s. DK Metcalf or Jalen Waddle, Denny Carter.
That's a really tough pick. I struggle with this one. I'm going Metcalf. I'm bullish on the Seattle offense. It's clear that they want to feature DK Metcalf in a way that I don't think that the Pete Carroll crew was willing to do.
No.
And hey, look, DK Metcalf is freakish, and I think that he can do a lot with that sort of featured role. Not anything against Waddle. Okay. I think this Dolphins offense is being underrated just generally, but I'm going Metcalf.
8 spots ahead in ADP, by the way, just receiver ADP. Waddle's the wide receiver 13. Metcalf's the wide receiver 21. Metcalf really needs to be in like that wide receiver 16 to 17 range. Yeah. It could be like a career changer for DK Metcalf to have Ryan Grubb.
I agree.
Yeah. Total career changer. We're almost out of time. We're sorry for the technical difficulties, but Denny, the folks demand to know who is the number 1 receiver for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I love to give you unanswerable questions, but who is it, Denny?
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, right. Especially after Matt LaFleur said he wants to literally vomit every time someone answers that question. I'm not going to vomit on air.
No, please don't. It would get clicks, to be honest. Actually,
it would be viral. Let me see if I can get something.
Idiot vomits on YouTube.
Sorry. He was asked once about Christian Watson. He vomited.
That would escape football Twitter, by the way. It would just be idiot vomits on YouTube. Be stripped of all context.
All right.
Receiver.
I actually think I'm going to say Romeo Doubs because
I might vomit now.
Right? No one wants to hear this. Okay,
no, because it's not. First off, it's not true. Is why.
Okay.
Sorry. Make the case.
Look, Dobbs is good. Like he just all he does is draw targets at a high rate and score touchdowns, and then we're just like, oh, who's the number 1? Is it Jaden Reed? Is it Dontavian Wicks, the wide receiver 6 on his own team? No, it's not. It could be Dobbs. I just find myself not really targeting any of these guys. I think Jaden Reed is being overdrafted. I'm going to go with the dark horse and Dobbs. And if I'm right, everybody owes me an apology.
Everyone always owes Denny an apology. He's always booed and he's always revealed. to be right. You could boo us for some of our technical difficulties, but thankfully we devised a few systems to get some questions to you. A lot of really good questions. Sorry for all the ones we missed, literally hundreds. It's impossible to sift through all of them, but just thank you so much for being with us here on our Rotoworld Draft Day Marathon. Mocks galore, live podcast coming up with Yahoo's Andy Behrens, another Q&A with Denny tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We got you covered all day. So much good stuff from the entire Rotoworld crew, Matthew Berry, Fantasy Football Happy Hour, Fantasy Life. So thanks to everyone who's taking part, including you, the viewers. For Denny, I'm Pat. We'll be back in a few hours.